I think it's important to always be listening. I think to always listen to music. Inevitably, for me, I find something that inspires me. It makes me want to get to a piano and sit down and do some writing, or get to my saxophone and do some practicing. So for me, it's important to be listening to music. I've played with some of the greatest composers in the music, Horace Silver being one of them, Tom Harrell being another. And I've heard this from others like Benny Golson, like the first thing they do in the morning when they wake up is go to the piano and start to write something. I remember Horace saying, some days I'll get, a whole tune. Some days I'll get 8 bars. Some days I'll get 2 bars. Some days I'll get nothing. But the point is to make that into a routine. So I think my own creative process is just always be listening and always find time just to get to the piano. And you might get nothing, you might get a lot. You never know. Well, I hope I would be in the real book 30 years from now. I do love to write music, but there's so many musicians that are really talented at writing tunes and writing songs. I mentioned one, Tom Harrell. He's already in the real book, I think. I got a chance to play with him, goodness, for about 5-6 years, and his tunes are, many of them are breathtaking. All of them are really great. So I would imagine a lot of his stuff will be studied for many years to come too. I learned a lot from Tom Harrell. One of the first things I learned is that your compositional palette can be as broad or as narrow as it needs to be to fulfill a certain end. Every tune of Tom's, they have a common thread, but they're all very, very different. Some are very kind of lullaby-like, very diatonic, soothing songs. Some are very jagged, angular, almost atonal in their construction. He's a masterful bebop improviser and composer. And for what you would kind of call mainstream or contemporary jazz, he's masterful at that too. He's written some amazing melodies. Sail Away is one of my favorite tunes ever. So, I mean, your compositional palette can be very broad, and you shouldn't strive to fit into a narrow box. It could be anything, and it should be everything, if you look at nature, anything could happen at any moment. So why shouldn't it be like that with music? Why should there be a certain expectation when you hear someone's music? It should be fresh and interesting every time, I think. Well, I think it's because of the transition we've just gone through in our country. It's kind of one end of the spectrum to the other. So it's, especially in musicians and artistic communities, we find that the person who is in the White House now, from what he says and does and espouses, does not have a lot of our ideals. It does not share a lot of our ideals. And that's a big cause of concern because as artists, and as musicians and as conscientious people who, in many cases, most cases I would hope, embrace, all people from everywhere and see the beauty, and especially in music like jazz, which is, by its very nature, is a combination of cultures and of musics and of people, that if we don't see that reflected at the highest levels of government, it really creates a lot of anxiety, because this is what fuels us, the diversity, So I don't fault anyone for speaking their mind politically. I feel like it's up to us to really follow what we're led to do. But I wouldn't fault people for not speaking politically, because for many it's a very sensitive topic, and maybe they're concerned about alienating people, and a lot of times you want your art to speak for itself. You don't want it to have some kind of thing that it's attached to that it can't be separated from. So I can understand people who feel both ways. Hi, I'm Jimmy Greene.